Hi, my name's Kevin. I've done music with Mike in the past. I still produce music occasionally on the side. Everything from basic 4-track stuff 20 years ago to some decent home recording level stuff now. I've had an interest in surround music pretty much since DVD audio came out in about 2000. I bought all the original ones when they came out and played them on a set of surround PC speakers. I don't remember if they were Clips or what brand they were at the time. Could have been Logitech's. So I made the point of this video is to give you just some really basic technical knowledge for how to put together that budget surround sound system. I think it's important to know your goals, obviously. First of all, what type of media are you going to be playing back in surround? And on top of that, just making sure with some certainty that the components you buy all match up and are able to produce the best quality, output from those components that you can possibly get. So that's really the point here.
This is my receiver. This is the system setup menu. This is going to change based on your specific receiver, but these settings are universal throughout. You're going to have something that'll control individual levels of each speaker. You're going to have something that's going to set the crossover, and then you're going to have something that'll set the distance of the speakers to the listener. On my receiver, it actually wants you to specifically tell it what size speakers you're using. In my case, I would have to tell it that I'm using small speakers. If I tell it large, depending on the other settings I use, it may still send a lot of the bass frequencies to these small speakers, which at 3-inch woofers, I don't really need or want. So this is the crossover section. You're definitely going to be adjusting this in just about every setup. The strategy here is to set this so that your satellite speaker's lowest frequency reproduction and the subwoofer's highest frequency reproduction are kind of in a balance. So what I've done here is that the subwoofer produces frequencies up to 150 hertz, and then my satellites produce everything above that. And there's a hard cutoff so that the satellites aren't producing frequencies that the subwoofer is also reproducing, which can cause problems. So in my case, the satellites are roughly 110 upwards, and the sub is up to about 160. So because of my particular amp not allowing me to program this and having presets, I was only able to select between 150, 100, and then I think it goes down to like 80 and 60. But obviously 150 was going to be the sweet spot based on what my satellites can produce and what my sub can produce. And moving on with more of the speaker setup, this is the actual individual speaker, we'll call it volume adjustment. I don't really do that because I have mine kind of set up exactly how it should be set up, like textbook, but the sub needed to go up a little bit to fill the room with more bass. This next section, according to my owner's manual, is more important because if you use any of their surround effects, say taking a 2-channel and trying to upmix it into a surround, like a reverb, fill the room kind of effect, like Neo, then this apparently plays into that, and these settings are critical for that to work right. And now this is my Samsung Blu-ray player. But before I get into that, I just want to note that my receiver automatically interprets whatever audio signal is coming into it. And if it's like a 6-channel, it'll automatically produce the 6-channel. If it's stereo, it'll just produce a stereo. Most receivers will have some sort of auto function. Generally, I believe those work fine. You can, try it. And that's kind of the point here, is that you're going to need to refer to your owner's manuals quite a bit when you're first setting them up to make sure that the component, whatever's playing back the music for you, whether it's a Blu-ray player or DVD player, is actually sending the proper signal or a compatible signal to the receiver, and that the receiver is set to whatever is its best setting to interpret that information automatically properly. And this is my Oppo. I don't use digital output because I have HDMI audio, and that's just basically set to multi-channel. But if you were going to use coax or fiber, you're going to want to set this to RAW probably, because that'll send a full bit stream, discrete channels, and PCM is more like a backwards compatibility mode. I'm also going to show here we have a SACD priority setting in my Oppo, which I obviously set to multi-channel because that's kind of the point, but it'll still play 2-channel SACDs. And for DVD audio, if you have this option, I would select it because DVD video, from my understanding and my experience, if you play it back automatically in a DVD video mode, it may not start automatically playing it in the highest resolution. So this is the living room. You'll notice that it's carpeted. That's a bonus. We also have blinds that were installed that I think help reflect the sound a little bit, kind of scatter it. without being like a hard wall there. So that's actually beneficial to that front left channel speaker. You'll notice that the speakers are all a fair distance up the wall so they clear any objects in the room. That's especially important with the front, with the center channel speakers, so that it got, above the television and it wasn't sending any sound behind the TV that would hit the back of the TV, hit the back wall, and then come back out in some awkward way. It doesn't look like it's very high, but it seems to be clearing because I don't hear any sort of weird effects with the center channel. And to be clear, the rear and the fronts are the same distance up the wall as far as height, and they're also equidistant from each other, so that their front and the rears are creating like a triangular focus into the listening area. And that's basically how you optimize your surround effect, is that you would be sitting, seated in a more central position, and all the sound would be able to move around the room if possible. In certain effects, in certain music actually do that. I know the Emerson, Lake and Palmer Brain Salad Surgery at the end, I think, of Carnival, there's a swirling effect with the keyboards going around the room. And it's pretty good. If you have it set up properly, it's a pretty good effect. So almost everything I have now is discontinued. The sub you can still buy from Amazon for like $300, which is $100 more than I paid for it. But on Polk's website, they actually list it as a discontinued product. What I have isn't important. It's the idea behind like what I purchased, or maybe what I had that was older that I've kept, reason why it's serving me a purpose, like the Blu-ray player. Everything's kind of matched properly. I have speakers with, where I can set the crossover frequency like I have, so there's no overlap necessary, that they can, there's no gap in the frequency response, so that the, crossover, I'm not suddenly losing some frequencies there because the small satellite speakers don't even start producing till above that, crossover setting. There's a lot of things to consider, but that's kind of was the point of walking through some of the things that I did, is to give you the knowledge that like, okay, these are the specs I should be looking for when I'm going out and buying speakers. As far as the amplifiers go, there's a lot of decent amps out there that have a lot of, these settings. My amps are quite old. I almost think all my components are at least 3 years old or older. I think the amp might be significantly older than that, maybe almost 10 years old. So that's kind of like, I'm getting, use and value out of these things. So, that's kind of what you're going to have to look for. You're going to have to look for what can I afford? What do I really need? Is SACD even important to me? You may not even need an Oppo like I have, but I have SACDs. So, and I do buy them actively. So I needed something that was going to play that back reliably. My Samsung Blu-ray player does not do that. But you might be fine with the Samsung Blu-ray player, which does handle a lot of the DVD audio. But again, not all of it. I've actually have DVD audios that the Samsung, for whatever reason, doesn't handle right. So it's kind of, you have to, explore, what your needs are and what's available and what you can actually afford.
And behind here is the Polk. This, I think, is my newest single component, is the sub. But when the opportunity presented itself, I got this. And the main thing that drew me to this, not just price, because I think I paid $179 or $199 for it, it also had LFE, designated discrete LFE, which basically means that I was able to send a signal from my amp to the sub, and it only produced whatever the amp was sending out. It actually has a switch inside that turns off, any crossover settings, anything like that, and it literally just produces the frequencies coming over that cable from the amp. So I hope you found the video useful. The point wasn't to be an expert or to try to convince anyone that this is the way that they should go. The point here was just basically to present one person's setup that was on a budget, and to give you some ideas, to give you something to kind of draw on if you had questions or as a reference, and more so to generate discussion in the comments, because of course people will have any number of other budget pieces of equipment, especially if you're looking secondhand. There's a huge market secondhand, so you can buy any number of components to mix and match. And like I said, the video's point here was that I wanted you to intelligently go out and buy the right component the first time, so you're not dealing with having to send stuff back or sitting on a piece of gear that doesn't quite do what you want. So I hope it was useful, and like the channel. Mike's doing a great job, and I'm very proud of him for starting this, because I never would have thought of it.
So I just want to say what a great effort from Kevin, and I appreciate the collaboration. I appreciate everything that I've been able to learn from helping edit this video and from Kevin's observations of his system. In particular, I really don't pay much attention to my crossovers, other than running the automated room setup, which I can do from my Denon or from my Emotiva. there are still settings that are available to me on the sub itself, and I really approach them fairly haphazardly, and that's something that I can pay more attention to if I want to dial in my sound. Kevin also mentioned to me in some messaging in regard to wire gauge. You have to be careful vis-a-vis your speaker run and the ohms of your speakers. I think he went with 14 gauge just to future-proof. My systems happen to run on 16 gauge and even 18 gauge. I learned a lot from this video, both from editing it and from simply watching it. And if you would wish to collaborate with this channel, to get your face on this channel, or maybe even just pictures of your system, shoot some video, shoot some stills, shoot some voiceover, send them to me, either as a complete video or in the individual components. Hopefully this was just the first in a series of collaboration videos, a show off your system type of video series. I'm not sure it would really be interesting to other viewers to simply show off your system, but if you have something that you think others can learn from how you set up your system, from how you purchased your system, from how you calibrated your system, if you feel like others can learn from your experience, it shouldn't just be about my systems. I have a dedicated quad 5.1 listening system in here, and an Atmos RO3D oriented system in my main room. But it should also be about your systems and about your preferences and about your experience. So I appreciate Kevin's video, and I look forward to any future videos from you, from your comments. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and above all, enjoy some surround listening and live life in surround.